Hello, and welcome to 5 Minutes with Nate. This month's topic is reading, which, reading in deaf education is the elephant in the room, right? We all know the research. We've all seen students who struggle with reading. The national average for deaf students is about a fourth grade reading level. That's tough. And we're all struggling and working and teaching and trying everything we can. But before we get a little paranoid on that, let's give some perspective, huh? A few years ago, I lived in New Mexico, worked at the New Mexico School for the Deaf. I had a friend who worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory, the people who do some intensive research on behalf of the government. And sometimes they have to go to Congress and present. So one of my friends, he was ready to make his first presentation for Congress and started making everything, and his boss gave him a little bit of a warning. Everything you write and do has to be a max of an eighth grade reading level, eighth grade conceptual understanding level. He was like, what? Yep, everything that they would present to Congress was a max of an eighth grade reading level. So people who make our laws, who lead our government, we're talking about an eighth grade reading level. This morning I did some research, and most research right now suggests that the average hearing high school graduate reads a seventh or eighth grade reading level. One study suggests that really it's a fifth grade reading level. Seventh and eighth grade may be on tests, but in real life it equates to a fifth grade level. So are deaf students just off the mark, some kind of unique exception? No. Many students hearing deaf struggle with reading. James Raymond, a researcher, said, reading is not a natural act. Not natural for hearing, who can hear and understand English naturally. So deaf students, of course, it's not natural. So we need to have respect for the situation of deaf students. They're going to struggle, and maybe that's okay. At the same time, doesn't mean we are accepting of that and that a max of a fourth grade reading level is fine, but maybe 12th grade is not what we need. 5th to 8th grade, that's the sweet spot of our country right now. So if we can get to that middle school level of reading, students are going to be okay. They can have jobs. They can go to college. Maybe there'll be some struggles, but they'll be fine. So we don't need to be paranoid about that 12th grade. What we need to do is have good instruction, a good solid foundation in reading. So how? So some tips for today, and the rest of the month we'll discuss some more. First, we need a strong linguistic foundation. Now, which language, of course? I'm going to say ASL. It's the most accessible, which means reading instruction really has to start with ASL instruction. For students to understand English nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, or whatever, we need to start it in ASL and make those comparisons and those contrasts in the languages. The concept, learn it in ASL and then transfer it to English. So, strong ASL means a strong improvement in reading. Second, really, there's so many different ways to teach reading. And there's not one way that works. One approach, that's it. That's what causes improvement. No, it improves an area. And reading is odd because it's not linear. It's not one line. It's not dots. It's this interwoven complexity. And nothing addresses all of it. So reading is a bit of a spectrum. We have whole language, like read alouds. See the whole language. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have the parts of language. Grammar, vocabulary, rules. So you have to have both sides of that spectrum, which means we need to balance and move between both sides. At the same time, we also have to balance with teacher-led. But if we just have that, students will never develop their own reading identity, their own reading preferences. So we need some student leadership in their own reading. But of course, teachers have to lead and teach and identify the problems and fill in the gaps. We have to move between that, which means those two things happen at the same time. Teacher-student led, whole and part language. We need to move around. I've made a picture to kind of show what that looks like and using some of the common regular approaches. Here's that. Okay, the last tip for today that I'm going to give out to you, writing. Research has shown a good reader, does that mean they're a good writer? No, not always. It's not an automatic transfer of skills in that direction. Because reading and writing are a little bit different. But at the same time, research shows good writers are always good readers. Means if we help students improve their writing, they'll understand reading better. A huge part of your reading instruction needs to include writing instruction as well. We can't dismiss writing because, we got to focus on reading. That's the most important. Yes, it is. But to exclude writing means that students are going to struggle more than they need. So again, the tips for today. Strong ASL foundation. Start with ASL. Move around the continuum, the spectrum of different reading practices. Touch everything, not only one favorite approach. And third, include writing. Okay, this month we're going to have some great guests. We're going to have some great ideas to share with you. At the same time, 1 month is not enough to commit to reading. Hope you can find some good tips to add to the instruction you already do. So that's your 5 minutes with Nate. Have a great day.